Hey guys, Guys here at Chill K9. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about training a sensitive dog with the electric collar. Now, this isn't going to be one of your usual kind of let's make him do it type stuff. The whole goal of this training is to make the dog stronger, to make the dog more willing in the work. There are a lot of dogs, like this dog here, he's a Malinois Shepherd mix, and a lot of dogs, a lot of working canine, they tend to be a little bit more handler sensitive. And in some cases it manifests itself as the dog kind of shutting down a little bit when the handler puts too much pressure on the dog. Or in some cases it manifests as the dog actually overreacting to the pressure, coming up the leash, and even being aggressive. That's where a lot of handler aggression comes from. The dog just doesn't know how to deal with the pressure, especially when he or she is in a high state of arousal, and the handler is putting the pressure to try to make the dog come under control, and the dog comes up the leash. Or you get a dog on the flip side that he just becomes shut down and more passive. And neither is good, especially from a working perspective. Because look, if I have a working dog, I need him to be on his toes, I need him to be open, I need him to be, open and always available to work. If I put him in obedience, and I might be going into a situation where I need to deploy the dog to do something, and he's all shut down and worried about the obedience, that dog is I've already taken a lot of his power away, and then I'm sending him into doing a task, whether it's a search function or whether it's an apprehension function, and the dog's already shut down. So I've already removed a lot of his power, when in fact I want him open, I want him on his toes and ready to go. From a sport perspective, right? Again, I need a dog who's open, who looks willing to do the work. And again, in sport, we're asking for obedience, but then we're also sending the dog to do tasks, whether it's a bite related task or retrieval or something like that. Even in tracking, there's obedience before the track. So we want dogs that are open in the obedience, because that generates more power for the tasks moving forward. Now, if you have a pet dog, you can still do this stuff because it makes, quite frankly, for a better picture in the end. A dog that's happier, a dog that accepts pressure a little bit better. Now, some dogs, you can put pressure on them, and if you train any number of dogs, you know what I'm talking about. You get some dogs, you just put the pressure on them, and they understand, they know how to deal with it. They've got the hardness and the courage and the drive to just come through it, and they're fine. Right? It doesn't matter really what you do. You can do old-fashioned yank and crank, or zap, 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 whatever it is you want to do, and it works out just fine. But then there's a lot of dogs where it doesn't work out fine. It creates confusion, it creates needless stress, and it suppresses the dog. And there are very few times I want to suppress the dog, especially with the electric collar. Now, some behavioral training, I do want the electric collar to act as a suppressant, but for the most part, especially sport, service dogs, and even pet dogs, I don't want them to become suppressed on the electric. I want them to take it as information, use it as fuel to generate more power in the work, more correctness in the work. So there's a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it. I've started this dog, he's just had a few sessions on the electric, so now I'm going to kind of show you how I train this dog to be more aroused, with the electric, how to train this dog to perceive the pressure in a positive way. Because he's one of those dogs, when we first put the electric on him, very low levels, just a little tingle, just to teach him to come back and so on and so forth, like the basic conditioning stuff, he immediately showed one of those and he kind of became very passive and stressed out by the pressure. And it was very low levels, just a barely perceptible level. Some dogs are like that. They just, any kind of new pressure that they're not familiar with, especially Malinois or Malinois mixes, you'll see a lot of this type of behavior, border collies, so on and so forth. So anyways, I'm going to show you how I generate power with a dog like this, and how I build him instead of making him weaker with the electric or whatever pressure you're using, whether it's a pinch collar or a flat collar, how to make the dog stronger, all right? So this dog is not a food dog. He's a very ball-motivated dog, has very little interest in the food, right? So I'm going to pull the ball, and I'm going to kind of show you what I do here. When I say chip, the dog knows that he's going to get his reward. Chip! And that noise is me hitting the e-collar. My e-collar is hooked up to a sound box, just so you guys can know when I'm making the stimulation. All right. Just going to fix that because I think that's a little low. I want to see when I'm doing this, I want to see that the dog perceives the electric. If he's not perceiving the electric, it is no good. I need him to perceive it somewhat. And some people are always like, listen, I don't want him vocalizing, I don't want him excessively jumping or twitching, but I do need to see that he feels it. There we go. We'll just stay at 8. Okay. House. That's it. So you can see the pressure means let go, but the pressure also might mean bite. All right? Pressure in, pressure out. Pressure out, pressure in. House. Good. Okay? And that brings me to the next thing. When do you put the pressure? Is it before the mark, during the mark, or after the mark? In some cases, it's all three. In some cases, it's before, right? House. So if I have a new dog, he's never done this, and I'm not sure about his level of drive, what I might do is something like this. Right? Very simple. Before the mark. From a classical conditioning standpoint, it makes sense, right? You make the pressure before the thing that he knows. And the thing that he knows is the mark. He knows the mark means he gets to go bite his ball. So if I make the pressure, which is the uncomfortable thing or the unknown thing, before the known thing, then he's going to pair those two together. And instead of having a negative association with the pressure is actually going to start to mean the same thing as the mark for him. Now, some people might say, well, this is going to complicate things in the future when you're trying to, use the e-collar to correct the dog into a behavior, to guide the dog into behavior. It's not if you do it right, okay? And I'll kind of try to shed a little bit of light on that. Now, there are times, like if you're not sure about your timing, I always say do it at the same time. Of course, the e-collar has to be low, or the leash pop, if that's what you're doing, has to be low. House. So that would be like at the exact same time, right? And that's fine too, especially for a dog like this who has a ton of drive for the ball. He's going to take it the way that you need him to take it. For a dog who's like really sensitive and really scared of different pressure and maybe doesn't have that much drive for whatever reward you're using, maybe if you make the pressure after the mark, the dog might actually have a negative association with the pressure. You want him to have a negative association with the mark. So for him, the mark might start to mean pressure, and he might not take that the right way. And you might see him becoming actually even more passive on the pressure. So right there, what happened there? On his own, the dog, a little bit sensitive, right? He thought, maybe I said to drop it. On his own, he dropped it. For me, that's not acceptable. Second, he dropped it. I didn't say anything. I just put the pressure on him until he took it again, okay? Pressure means power. Pressure generates power. I don't let the dog become passive, right? And that's really important. So, good job, yeah, buddy. House. Good. There we go. And for him, the e-collar pressure is actually more because there's a sound box involved. He's quite able to hear the sound box, right? So from his perspective, he's hearing it and feeling it, which is a little bit more than he normally would be experiencing. So I've turned down the e-collar just a little bit from maybe where I would normally be operating. So I've kind of given you guys a little bit of an idea. Again, I want this e-collar to be a gas pedal just as much as it is brakes. How's good? So there you saw me kind of use it before, during, and after. And I basically turned the electric on the dog all the way to the ball. And again, I'm teaching the dog to bring that power, a little bit of that discomfort and frustration caused by that discomfort into the ball, right? And that's going to create that kind of activity in the dog when we do the work with him. You can see a lot of that. Now, this is not a sport dog. I'm not making him into a sport dog. I'm not training the way that I train a sport dog. With sport dogs, I generate more arousal I make them super active and super pushy, he's going to be a service dog, not like a handicapped person's service dog, more like a police service dog. So that's the kind of role he's going to be in. So we're going to be doing things where I need him to be in an open state of mind in the obedience, where he's ready to be deployed into a search function or an apprehension function, and I need to be able to put pressure on him in a way that he stays open, okay? So I hope that kind of makes a little bit of sense. I'm going to put pressure on him in bite work, maybe to make him let go, maybe to make him bite harder, and I'm going to put pressure on him in the obedience, and I need him to kind of take all that in and use it as fuel instead of becoming worried about it. So a couple things that I'll do here, I'll use the leash a little bit, right? Ouse, ouse. So again, you'll see a little bit of leash pressure here, and now pressure on the electric. And right here, it's the wrong response, right? So now what am I going to do? I'm going to keep the pressure there. And we'll do that again. So you can see there, the dog became passive, right? He became passive. Ouch. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Oh, there you go. He beat me to it that time. He became passive on the electric. So what did I do? I kept the pressure on him. I actually kicked the device, right? Or the ball. And then that stimulated the arousal from the dog, and he did the correct behavior. And then the second I saw him really pushing for the ball, the electric turned off, right? I don't need to turn it all the way on him until he gets to it. I just need, because I'm not trying to make a forced hold or anything here. I'm just trying to teach him that when you feel pressure, it doesn't mean become passive. It means open up, go for something, do something, right? There we go, and that's what I want to see. And I create not just resistance with the electric, but resistance with the leash as well, that he learns to fight. Now I'm going to show you how you might start putting this into obedience, okay? So, all right, and I did use the e-collar there. Sometimes the sound box doesn't pick it up for whatever reason, okay? So, boost, boost, good. Right? So there you saw the pressure before the mark, then the pressure as he's making the attempt to get the ball, and of course he turned it off when I really saw he went super, high for the ball. Then I turned off the electric. Out. Push. Good. Push. Good. Good. And you can see there the head started to go down a little bit on the control and when I put some pressure on him in the heeling, because he got a little bit out of position. Head went down, but immediately the mark and the reward, and what's that naturally going to create? It's going to create the head coming up. Yeah, good. Good. House. House. Good. And there we go. Sometimes I just give them a freebie. We don't always do the same thing. House. Good. Push. Good. Push. Good boy. Good. Head stays up this time. Right? And he's staying a little back from me because he wants to see the ball. That's okay, right? This is the kind of dog, if he can't see the ball when you're putting pressure on him to make the heeling in the beginning, his head's going to get real low, and you're going to get one of those dogs that just kind of slinks next to you in the heel, and that's not what we want. So a lot of service dogs, I don't put the ball up here, right? Because it actually kind of will make them a little bit too crazy to think. But for him, I do need to do this, right? Because it's going to keep him in a nice kind of behavior. Yeah. Out. Good. Push. Good. There we go. Good. Good. Good boy. So again, you can kind of see the dog starting to put the pieces together. Again, this is not sport obedience. For sport obedience, you can watch me kind of do that with my, I have another dog named Gage. You can watch me do that with him. It's a lot more active, a lot more flashy, a lot more powerful, right? Because I use a lot more pressure to power in my sport obedience, I use, really it's more arousal, pressure, power in sport obedience. Whereas with, you know, dogs that are going to be more for functional use, I'll just use pressure, power, right? Right? There you go. And again, you can see just because the pressure was unfamiliar for the dog, he became stuck a little bit. And what did I do? I didn't turn the pressure off until he offered the desirable behavior, right? We'll do that one again and see if we can help him a little more. Good, right? And the dog becomes super used to the pressure. Pressure out, pressure in, pressure to position, pressure in position, right? Out. Butts. Hey, good job, man. House. Seats. Right. House. Butts. Right. And you can use the leash and the e-collar together to create a combination of pressure, either a resistant pressure or activating pressure. House. Good. Seats. Good. There we go. And if your dog's having trouble kind of getting, when you hold the ball and you're making the leash pressure, he's having trouble kind of activating, then you can always throw the ball a little bit. It's going to make the dog a bit more active, right? House. I think I was a little off there. It's okay. When you train this way, you can be a little bit off sometimes. Good. You can be a little bit off sometimes because it makes the dog more resilient, right? The dog isn't resilient. You haven't made them strong and tougher to the pressure. Then when you make mistakes, it's much more impactful, right? Not that I'm recommending that you make mistakes. So we'll do a little bit more healing with this guy, and we'll call her a day. Because we're kind of out of time here. I've been talking a lot, so it kind of interrupts the flow of the session and the speed at which we can kind of achieve things. House. House. And you can see that tickle now from the e-collar is not creating the response that we want. So what are we going to do? House. We're going to just turn that e-collar up, and that's good. I like that. I like when a dog starts to become a little bit desensitized. A little bit desensitized. So now I'm up a few points on the e-collar. The reason why, now he's becoming stronger. He's not so worried about it. He's used to it. He's taking it as information, but he still really wants his ball, right? And that conflict a little bit generated by that pressure can bring more power, especially when you're doing this with a dog that has drive. If your dog doesn't have drive, do not do this. Generate that drive first, create that drive. There's ways to do that. I have some videos on how to build ball drive, food drive. It's one of those things. Like, this dog doesn't really have much functional food drive. I'm sure I could starve him and feed him special sausages, but if I have to do all that for me, it's not worth it anymore, all right? So he's just about done. I'm just gonna do a quick round of, just a quick heel, and then we'll be done. Out! Good. So, all up there. Push. Good job, Baba. Good. Yeah. Yeah, and he wants to put his head down sometimes. I'm not worried about that. I don't need focused healing. I don't need him to keep his head up the whole time. It's not necessary. I just need him to be understanding that he needs to stay in the position, and I don't want to see a passive behavior. If he wants to look around while he stays next to me, I'm okay with that. So for me, I don't correct him for putting his head down. I correct him for physically leaving the position. But that's a whole other topic. Good. Good. Oh. Good. Push. Good. Good. Okay, guys. So as always, training pants are provided by Eric Outdoor USA. Hef, come over here. Dylan, come over here. So, my guys, and myself love these training pants. We wear them all the time. Why don't you get a look? Look at these fine gentlemen. Look how good looking they are, right? I left Sal over there because he's ugly, but these guys, these are some handsome guys, and look at these pants. Fantastic pants.
That's
Use
what
promo code.
this looks like, guys. Right over there.
Use promo code SHIELD10 to get 10% off your next purchase from Eric Outdoor Training Pants. Eric makes the best stuff for dog training. We use a lot of their clothing because it stands up to all this stuff that the dogs do to us. Thank you for watching. If you like our video, feel free to like, subscribe, comment below, and the ball that I'm using and the vest are going to be available on our website by the end of February. Not quite sure on the exact day. We're just getting some shipping stuff together with the app. We love using these magnet balls. Use the magnet vest as well, the MCRS, and we'll be carrying them directly on our website. Other than that, thank you for watching.